All right, now we are welcoming viewers here on CBC Television and CBC News Network, live streaming around the world on CBC.ca and the CBC News app. I am Rosemary Barton. In just a moment, we are going to hear Queen Elizabeth's special address on the COVID-19 crisis. Over her 68 years on the throne, the Queen has delivered this kind of message only a handful of times. But these are unprecedented days, meaning we are about to hear another from the Queen. This was shot last Thursday at Windsor Castle with just one cameraman in the room, fully protected. And now, let us go to Her Majesty the Queen for this address to the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth.
I'm speaking to you at what I know is an increasingly challenging time, a time of disruption in the life of our country, a disruption that has brought grief to some, financial difficulties to many, and enormous changes to the daily lives of us all. I want to thank everyone on the NHS frontline, as well as care workers and those carrying out essential roles who selflessly continue their day-to-day duties outside the home in support of us all. I'm sure the nation will join me in assuring you that what you do is appreciated and every hour of your hard work brings us closer to a return to more normal times. I also want to thank those of you who are staying at home, thereby helping to protect the vulnerable and sparing many families the pain already felt by those who have lost loved ones. Together we are tackling this disease, and I want to reassure you that if we remain united and resolute, then we will overcome it. I hope in the years to come, everyone will be able to take pride in how they responded to this challenge. And those who come after us will say the Britons of this generation were as strong as any, that the attributes of self-discipline, of quiet, good-humoured resolve, and of fellow feeling still characterize this country. The pride in who we are is not a part of our past. It defines our present and our future. The moments when the United Kingdom has come together to applaud its care and essential workers will be remembered as an expression of our national spirit, and its symbol will be the rainbows drawn by children. Across the Commonwealth and around the world, we have seen heartwarming stories of people coming together to help others, be it through delivering food parcels and medicines, checking on neighbours, or converting businesses to help the relief effort. And though self-isolating may at times be hard, many people of all faiths and of none are discovering that it presents an opportunity to slow down, pause and reflect in prayer or meditation. It reminds me of the very first broadcast I made in 1940, helped by my sister. We, as children, spoke from here at Windsor to children who had been evacuated from their homes and sent away for their own safety. Today, once again, many will feel a painful sense of separation from their loved ones. But now, as then, we know deep down that it is the right thing to do. While we have faced challenges before, this one is different. This time we join with all nations across the globe in a common endeavour, using the great advances of science and our instinctive compassion to heal. We will succeed, and that success will belong to every one of us. We should take comfort that while we may have more still to endure, better days will return. We will be with our friends again. We will be with our families again. We will meet again. But for now, I send my thanks and warmest good wishes to you all.
And that is the Queen speaking, Her Majesty the Queen, speaking from Windsor Castle, just released to all of us, but recorded back on Thursday with a strong message and a call for unity for people in her country, but yes, all over the world. Anne Macmillan is a former CBC London bureau chief, and she joins me now from London. So a short message, about 4 minutes, Anne, 4.5 or so, where the Queen went through the challenging time everyone is experiencing, thanked, as you had told us, the health workers and all the work that they are doing, selfless duties, she called them. What stood out for you there in her message?
It was very moving. I didn't expect to be so moved by what she had to say, being a hardened old journalist. But she looked so sincere, which she is, obviously. I thought that it was very interesting the way she talked about how, when we look back on this, we'll take pride in how we dealt with this problem. She used that wonderful "We'll Meet Again" at the end. Vera Lynn in the Second World War, the song that the troops used to love, "We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when." But I think it was a very moving one and very practical advice. You know, this is a time where we are sad because we're being separated from our loved ones, but it's for the best. And I think it was very forward-looking and positive.
Yeah, I'll highlight a couple of things. The language "we are united and resolute" seemed to me particularly British and would resonate strongly with many people who have experienced or lived through some of the same things as the Queen. But she also talked about the difficulty many people would have in self-isolating, how difficult that might be. And she said whether you have a faith or religion to practice or not, it might be the moment to slow down and to reflect on things, even through prayer or meditation, she said. I'm not sure the last time the Queen has offered the advice to meditate, but that to me was interesting as well, because it was, first of all, recognition that not everyone is going to turn to faith in a moment like this, but also what other people are noticing, that quieter, slower lives sometimes lead to an opportunity to contemplate things.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that we've all found this. I hope you too, that being forced to just sit down and smell the roses is actually not a bad thing. It means that we actually can appreciate our loved ones, nature, just being alive.
At the end, where you're quite right, she did sort of call back those lyrics from that song, but she also talked about how this is a different common endeavor. And Brian had said, I think it was Brian had said before, this can't be a sort of wartime message. While we are all united in the fight against the pandemic, this can't be the same kind of tone. And I'm wondering whether you thought, from that perspective, she struck the right tone.
I do, and I think it was interesting that she did actually show that picture and clip that you actually showed earlier before the Queen's speech of her in 1940 with her sister Margaret talking to the children of Britain. So there, she was harking back and proving to us, if we need proof, that she has had extraordinary experiences and she knows what she's talking about. And I found that very interesting. I also thought there was a great moment, which you must have seen on the news, of people applauding. Once a week, we stand outside our houses and we applaud health workers. And I was interested that she mentioned that as well when they showed the pictures.
Yes. Okay, Anne, I will come back to you. Thank you so much. Let me go to Brian Stewart, though, former CBC foreign correspondent in Toronto. So, Brian, was that what you expected? What did you make of the Queen's message there? Oh, do we have Brian? Yes, there he is, yeah.
Sorry, I agree very much with Anne. It was so much more moving than I expected, frankly. She has this extraordinary ability to get exactly the mood right. And I thought tonight what really struck me was the praise aspect. I think all of us want to really praise the health workers in the way that she was able to tonight. I mean, there's a real inbuilt feeling that we want to thank you. They are the few of our time. They are the ones that are absolutely in the front line for all of us. And the Queen was able to put that in exactly the right words and have everybody hear the same message. So that was very moving for me. Also the suggestion that, look, we've all been through tough times. We each have our own challenge. This is our time for many people, and we have to rise up to the expectations, as she knows, and she's very confident that we will.
At one point she said it is the right thing to do. I wonder, does that, when the Queen says something, it must resonate differently than if your mom's telling you to stay home and not go out and socialize with people. So I wonder that challenge about telling people how to behave and how to act going forward, whether that will resonate differently too.
I think it will resonate. It will underscore what many other people are saying. It will sort of add a sort of strength to what governments have been saying, and many people have been coming on camera. Just to have somebody who's seen everything since 1940 and even before can come on and say, it is what you must do. It is what we do in tough times, and is what you must do. I think it just underscores the message. In many ways, we've all been giving each other for weeks now, but it comes from the Queen. It comes from the head of state we've all known almost all our lives, and that's got to resonate more powerfully. And the other thing is, it's not the daily press conference or news conference of a political leader. It is something that's so rare, you really do take notice.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we've seen enough of the political leaders on a daily basis now that perhaps the message resonates differently because it is so rare to hear directly from the Queen at times like this. I asked Anne this question, but for you as well. While the Queen alluded to the message that she had given when she was a teenager to children who had been, removed from their family homes for safety during the war, this was not a message like that, but it was still a message about sort of a common fight. Did you see the differences or similarities in terms of the kinds of messaging she had to do there?
Yes, I do. I actually think the wartime sense came through very strongly. I was talking to some millennials the other day who said they realize that this is their time, their challenge too, and they will now have had their challenge. The way they're always been talked of, perhaps soft or not up for it. Everybody knows now this is a massive challenge, and everybody has to rise to it. And I think going back to the wartime was a very useful homing device to say, look, we've really been through a lot of things, and we do come through. And we will see, bright days again, the broad sunlit uplands that Churchill used to talk of. We will see better times. It's a message that was brilliant when it was first uttered back in the 40s. It's a message that is carried through time. And it's a message absolutely needed now and absolutely exact. So I think every part of it was well put together, very well placed.
Okay, Brian.
I think both the government and the opposition will be very pleased with that tonight.
Yeah, if the intent was to try and really hammer home the message, that was certainly done tonight. Okay, Brian, thank you so much. We'll be back to you. Just a little mention of some other things that the Queen said. She said to take comfort. We still have more to endure, she said, but better days will come. And that is perhaps because the United Kingdom is struggling to fight this pandemic in a very real way. Almost 48,000 people have tested positive for the coronavirus, according to their Department of Health, and the death toll in the United Kingdom is almost at 5,000, and this is certainly not the worst. Health officials there expect that it will get worse over the next couple of weeks, and the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, has said to Londoners, to the United Kingdom, it is mission critical to follow social distancing rules. That happened after a couple of difficult days in parts of England where people were out in droves at parks and at beaches. And so there's been a bit of a crackdown now from health officials who are saying if you don't pay attention to this physical distancing rules, it's possible we won't even let you outside of your home for outdoor exercise. All right, let's go back to Anne McMillan, former CBC London bureau chief, still in London there. I mean, the situation is not a great one in the United Kingdom, in part because of the way the government has handled this, although there's been a real attempt to try and catch up with other more successful countries in battling the pandemic. I wonder if the timing of this, Anne, in terms of, as you say, the very good weather, but also as we move into a lot of religious celebrations, whether it be Passover, Easter Sunday, and Ramadan, and places where people are naturally going to want to gather together, whether the timing of this is also a little bit about those things too.
I think it is. I really do. And I think that, as I said earlier, I think the government and the Queen timed this extremely carefully and extremely sensibly. I found also in her speech that was really lovely, which I just came back to me now, is that it was full of hope. Because at the end, she said, we will succeed. Mm-hmm. And she said, there's still more to endure, but better days are ahead. And I think that's such an important message to people who've been literally locked in, if you could say, for the past 2 weeks and going into a third week tomorrow, that yes, this isn't, it's not that long a time. We can just put up with it, and we just have to put up with it if we want these better days ahead.
Yeah, and it's certainly a message that resonates here too in Canada, Anne, because you're right, people are getting antsy, and the Prime Minister every day says we've just got to hang in there and go a little bit longer. But the weather and the desire to see other people, all things that people get for sure, and an important message, I guess, to hear it directly from the Queen. Anne, thank you. We'll be back to you. Yes, go ahead, Anne. Sorry.
One final point. I think some people, not many, a small minority, as the health minister would say, are beginning to say, well, it's not all that bad. I don't have it. I don't know many people who've got it. So really, what's all the fuss about? So I think this message from the Queen will actually make people sit back and say, well, if she's saying it, we're going to listen.
All right, Anne, I'll be back to you. Thank you so much. Let me go back, though, to Robert Hardman, a Daily Mail columnist, author of Queen of the World, and he also joins us from London. All right, Robert, I haven't heard your take yet on what the Queen's message. So how did you find it?
I thought it was spot on. I thought it was pitch perfect. I thought it had elements of, it was sort of Churchillian in places, but it was very much of our times. I think the Queen was very careful to say, look, I've been through a lot and I've seen a lot, and what you are doing now, it stands alongside everything in our past. It was forward looking. She was talking to, she was looking back on her very first broadcast. As I said earlier, it's 80 years, amazingly 80 years since her first broadcast, and she touched on that. But it was to say what the world is doing now. And I think she was keen to differentiate then and now. Then it was nations divided. Now it's a world united. She wanted to make that point, and she wanted to stress that the younger generations are doing their bit their resolve is every bit as admirable as what we saw during the war. And I think the way she made a point talking about the Commonwealth, talking about the whole world. Mm-hmm. It was positive, but it was interesting that, for example, I mean, no reference to other members of the family. She didn't mention Prince Charles. She didn't mention the Duke of Edinburgh, who's there in isolation with her. This is about the nation, not the family.
Yes, you're quite right. That's an important observation. At one point, she also said, pride in who we are defines our present and our future. I thought that was interesting as well, because it was almost a reminder, as you say, of things that people have gone through, their behavior that has led to positive outcomes, and how that might help them now to call upon what she called their resolute nature, the united and resolute nature of the British.
Yes, and not just the British. I think she's talking about, the Commonwealth as well, and the world. And she talked also about the instinctive compassion to heal. I think she was trying to draw out as many positives about the response to what's going on at the moment. It was interesting. I thought also that, we normally see her speak at Christmas, and there's normally a fairly overtly religious subtext to what she says. On this occasion, no mention of Easter at all. She directly referred to those of all faith and of none. She did say that this is a time that may have encouraged some people towards prayer and meditation, but there was certainly no overtly religious messaging here. I think it was a very contemporary address from someone who has seen more crises and more existential threats to, if you want, our way of life than any other world leader serving today.
Would Robert, would everyone be gathered around their television screens or their computer screens and be watching this? Would this be something that families would gather around to hear, given it is so unusual?
Yeah. Well, I can only speak for my own because we're all under lockdown. But yes, I mean, I think up and down the nation, rather like on Christmas Day, families come together to watch the Queen's speech. Although I have to say, I imagine the ratings on this one will go way beyond Christmas. I think this will be a moment, one of those moments when years to come people will remember. Yeah, we all sat around the TV and watched the Queen.
Okay. Robert, thank you so much for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. For those of you who may have missed the original broadcast, it's not a long one, but as you heard, an important one. Here is Her Majesty's address in its entirety once again.
I'm speaking to you at what I know is an increasingly challenging time, a time of disruption in the life of our country, a disruption that has brought grief to some, financial difficulties to many, and enormous changes to the daily lives of us all. I want to thank everyone on the NHS frontline, as well as care workers and those carrying out essential roles who selflessly continue their day-to-day duties outside the home in support of us all. I'm sure the nation will join me in assuring you that what you do is appreciated and every hour of your hard work brings us closer to a return to more normal times. I also want to thank those of you who are staying at home, thereby helping to protect the vulnerable and sparing many families the pain already felt by those who have lost loved ones. Together we are tackling this disease, and I want to reassure you that if we remain united and resolute, then we will overcome it. I hope in the years to come, everyone will be able to take pride in how they responded to this challenge. And those who come after us will say the Britons of this generation were as strong as any, that the attributes of self-discipline, of quiet, good-humoured resolve, and of fellow feeling still characterize this country. The pride in who we are is not a part of our past. It defines our present and our future. The moments when the United Kingdom has come together to applaud its care and essential workers will be remembered as an expression of our national spirit, and its symbol will be the rainbows drawn by children. Across the Commonwealth and around the world, we have seen heartwarming stories of people coming together to help others, be it through delivering food parcels and medicines, checking on neighbours, or converting businesses to help the relief effort. And though self-isolating may at times be hard, many people of all faiths and of none are discovering that it presents an opportunity to slow down, pause and reflect in prayer or meditation. It reminds me of the very first broadcast I made in 1940, helped by my sister. We, as children, spoke from here at Windsor to children who had been evacuated from their homes and sent away for their own safety. Today, once again, many will feel a painful sense of separation from their loved ones. But now, as then, we know deep down that it is the right thing to do. While we have faced challenges before, this one is different. This time we join with all nations across the globe in a common endeavour, using the great advances of science and our instinctive compassion to heal. We will succeed, and that success will belong to every one of us. We should take comfort that while we may have more still to endure, better days will return. We will be with our friends again. We will be with our families again. We will meet again. But for now, I send my thanks and warmest good wishes to you all.
That is again Her Majesty the Queen addressing the nation and the Commonwealth from Windsor Castle, where she has been self-isolating now with her husband, the Duke of Edinburgh. Of course, the royal family has been touched directly by COVID-19. The Prince Charles was showing some mild symptoms of the coronavirus and had to self-isolate as well. He is said to be doing much better. Brian Stewart is a former CBC foreign correspondent, and he joins us again from Toronto. Okay, still as good the second time around. Brian, what difference do you think this will make, hearing from the Queen directly for anybody, but particularly those in the Commonwealth?
Well, you know, I couldn't help thinking that she spoke to a country that went into this crisis and has had a very rough time of it because it was so politically divided. Mm-hmm. Another country that has had a terrible time of it because it's also politically divided was the United States. In Britain, we had the monarch was able to speak above the fray. In the United States, of course, the head of state is the president, so they don't have that person above the fray. And I couldn't help thinking again, there are times when that position of monarch, I'm not a great monarchist, but there are times when that position really comes through strong. And today, as one of our guests said, she spoke pitch perfect. She looked great. I thought she looked really in command and strong. And I think it was a commanding performance. And a lot of people are going to go away shaking their heads and say, wow, she still has it. She really has it.
And she'll be 94 in a few weeks, so you're quite right. She still has it from that perspective. Brian Stewart, thank you so much. Lovely to see you. Appreciate it. My thanks as well to Anne McMillan, our former London bureau chief in lockdown in London as well. Again, this is an incredibly rare event to see the Queen address the nation and the Commonwealth like this. She's only done it 3 other times before, and this time came together with Downing Street, deciding that this was the right moment to call for people in the UK and elsewhere to stay home, to stay strong, to stay resolute with some of her language there. We hope you enjoyed our special coverage of the Queen's message. I, of course, will be back tomorrow when we expect to hear from the Prime Minister again for his daily update on the pandemic in this country. But for now, we will leave you to contemplate the Queen's message, doing this again in unusual, extraordinary times. I'm Rosemary Barton. Goodbye.